Hey, pre and post show stuff. No bloopers in this one. Apparently, either I didn't make as many mistakes or I didn't remember to clip and save them, or they weren't funny mistakes, which happens sometimes too. So, yeah. Right, from October 6th. So, this would be the very first episode after the government shutdown, which is part of why I left in the bit about realizing that the ridiculous Hegseth generals meeting was on Wednesday. Like, it was literally the, second day of the month after and the second day of the government shutdown? Yeah. No, the first day. It was the first day of the government shutdown. They still held the generals meeting where Hegseth just talked down to every single general while they weren't technically being paid. Like, they didn't know they were going to get paid, and from reporting that I did based on federal news networks reporting this week, well, actually, they did their report on the 24th? It's either the 24th or the 27th. So, last week-ish, some of them may not have been paid, though, frankly, if it was generals not getting paid instead of just rank and file soldiers who were also having issues, I feel like we probably would have heard a much bigger stink about it, but rundown for this week. USian fascist bullshit, mostly focused on Portland and Chicago, with a little bit of extra stuff that I think people are forgetting about. A bunch of generative AI bruffed, and one other thing. Oh, goodness. I have three things that I'm putting down as, like, petty fandom bullshit, but to be clear, none of them are really all that petty, but they are definitely fandom adjacent. Not bullshit, drama. There we go. And to be clear, I also don't think drama is necessarily a bad thing. Also, Kira, Mushby, Kel, Jules, I hope everyone's doing good. I don't think I missed anyone, but just in case. Oh, I legitimately forgot about the thing about trying to end birthright citizenship, but that also got kind of stopped. Hang on. I need to grab a video, or a still video. I'd really just like to grab an image. Oh yeah, I also have a really fun thing where one of the stories that I have this week, the image for it is quite literally just, yeah, okay, that's Kash Patel's official government headshot. I don't know why, that just is. It's not a thing that I have any control over, that's just what he uses for some reason. Story. By the way, if you want information on what's going on in Chicago on a much more up-to-date basis, I highly recommend following The Tribe, which is a black-owned paper out of Chicago, and, God, what is it? Unraveled, and I recommended them last week too. Unraveled and The People's Fabric. Unraveled is much more active on Blue Sky specifically, because doing a lot of, like, live reporting, so, and same with People's Fabric off the top of my, actually, yes, because, right, they're the People's Fabric and Unraveled are like two halves of the same org. Oh, cool. As of literally 2 hours ago, Chicago journalists are suing DHS and ICE, which I missed, specifically over the aggressive use of force against them. Usually you post images. The problem is that I'm trying to find their images specifically because both of them are really good about cropping out protesters, and I don't want... Like, they do not share videos or posts that contain protesters, because if you know anything about the fucking... Ooh, that's actually very... if you know anything about, especially the Ferguson protests, almost every protester whose, like, photo was shown turned up dead within months of the end of the Ferguson protests. I use the passive voice there because, well, there was never any kind of significant investigation into what the fuck happened and why seemingly every protester at those rallies that was caught on film by conservatives mysteriously turned up dead. Just, again, if you've ever wondered why it is that folks warn you to never goddamn post your fucking protest videos online, much less to social media, unless you're very specifically controlling and blurring out faces, yeah, that's why. Because they're killing people and have been for years. And unfortunately, in this case, very often they are the same people who theoretically should be investigating those killings. Okay, that's number 10. This is the one that needs to cut. Pritzler decided to be a fucking, liberal and prove that he's always been a liberal and doesn't put his money where his mouth is because he's a fucking billionaire. Fuck care. I also occurs to me I'm probably saying his name wrong. I'll say Kylie Neko, but I'm always bad about this. At least when I fuck it up for him, it's fucking up a white dude's name. Oh my god. No, I'm actually spelling it right. Are you supposed to pronounce the K? Because I always am not sure, or is it Pritzker? It's Pritzker, isn't it? I've just been saying it wrong this whole time. Damn it. This is the one that says things to myself. I even tried to set up my images a little bit easier so that I could, or set up my plan a little bit easier so I knew what images I wanted in what places, and then I just still screwed it up. Oh. The fact that it's also his official headshot on IMDb, where it's provably just a bad headshot. I don't understand why. Because it's just not even a good headshot. Because first rule of headshot, don't look directly at the camera? I mean, for goodness sake, that's the first rule of, any interactions with a camera is don't look directly at the camera. But please, Kat, I do not have shut up. Oh shit, I was gonna use that image. Did I already do? I just did something really annoying that means I have to change a bunch of shit. Fuck. I forgot about an image I specifically had saved. Oh, no, none of these are actually the image I was about to try and grab. Cool. But it's fun. I get to cover stuff like how... One, obviously the whole thing about the Democrats shutting down the government is not true, but also, there's a specific Arizona rep who has been distinctly not sworn in, partially because she would be the 218th member who's already agreed to vote on releasing the Epstein Files, which is part of why, specifically the House, is not even in session. They keep trying to go, the Democrats aren't coming to the table to bargain. The fucking House Republicans have not been in session in 2 weeks. They specifically fled when... I can't remember her name because I'm not looking at it right now, was elected and have very specifically not returned so that they haven't had to do her swearing in ceremony so that now that Democrats and the 4 Republicans who've agreed to jump sides to them don't have the 218 votes to force the House to release the Epstein Files. And I'm not kidding. It really is that fucking simple. That is quite literally part of a major aspect of why this government shutdown is happening. This should be number 12. Okay, I'm really not looking at this. Yeah, it's real stupid. The other thing I can always remind people of is that, in case you're not aware, the Republicans also literally control the House, the Senate, and the presidency on top of, controlling basically half the courts too. Most of the courts, arguably, but so this thing about, the Democrats caused it is such a fucking bullshit attempt to cover their own asses. It's so pathetic. No, you to be number... Because this is the most stupid... Oh, right, I forgot that by doing any sort of number typing, those are all going to pop up on screen. Sorry, I forgot about that. I mean, it's not even just that. It's also over the fact that it includes a bunch of ridiculous cuts to our already bullshit healthcare system that will completely destroy and gut it. Because while this immediate thing actually has very little to do with trans healthcare, though yes, Trump is trying to make it about that, a lot of it is just, I am a dictator trying to force my way through and people aren't letting me have the specific thing that I want, so I'm gonna throw a fucking fit. Also, somehow I have yet another story about Anthropic, and I don't know how the fuck this keeps happening because I cannot escape it would seem. This is hell. I live in hell. This one is that market store just want to grab their title card from us. I do not fucking know what the hell is wrong with iCloud lately, but it keeps doing something where it's grabbing the entire screen. So I literally have to refresh the entire page to download one of my own. I mean, I feel like there's a really bad, tasteless joke to be made somewhere about the best government money can buy, largely off the back of they're just blatantly for sale. So yeah, they're really just kind of blatantly for sale. Oh, cool. Did I also just fuck up my... Yeah, I just jumped ahead several numbers. Cool. You know the really silly part? I did the numbers this morning. I was talking about how I had issues with sleeping last night because normally I actually take kind of a while to finish final scripting. Usually because something insane or ridiculous is happening on Sunday night. Something did happen last night too, but it was mercifully sorted, or at least locked in by before midnight my time. But But I did export, but I then couldn't sleep because normally it takes me a damn minute to get all this shit done. And I was still just sort of keyed up and stressed and waiting for it to happen, to like need to deal with some extra crap. I just couldn't sleep. So that was super fun. I had way too much thinking. Oh, right. Actually, this one I wanted to do itself. You know, I should be able to tell just based on the fact that I moved where text is appearing, but whatever. It turns out in Shorts, I basically, where I put my text normally is like the worst spot because you can't fucking read it. Right. Yep, that's the one. Problem is, I think for a bunch of these, I might actually just have to do the recording and we'll do images later, but a couple of these I have to get so many images for because I made foolish life choices in how I wrote these scripts. Oh, that is generic white. I kind of expected that. I'm not explaining what I mean, you'll see soon, don't worry, but it's just like, I've never seen him, but that tracks. Have narratives. One god. Okay, cool. I'm just gonna have to do all of my final story. Okay. Second to last story has 2 images. The final story has 1, 3, 4, 5, 6 images. Unless I just go with the same text. If I just stick with the same text, it'll probably be fine. Problem is I do actually need to go make. I have to go grab screenshots. Some of these. Oh, wait. Yes. The benefit. Covering fandom drama. Sometimes people have already done at least some of the image shit for me. Or some amount of it. 20, cool. That and excuse my weird noises. I know none of you actually give a shit about my weird noises, but you know it. I know you do, but you also live with me, so you have a like weird bias. Maybe not, but you have a bias, or at the very least, clearly can put up with it better than most folks. Tell me this. I love trying to get shit spelled correctly when the real question is this misspelled, or is this just a word that for some reason my spell check has decided is not a real word? Like transphobia! Because it also thinks transmisogyny is not a real word, but that's a slightly more common thing to not believe is a real word. But yeah, I feel like most folks just make strange noises and we've just all gotten kind of used to the things, but yeah. I don't suppose I downloaded all of those fucking stuff. I didn't. Oh, I forgot about that stupid one. I didn't even have time to remember to use it. Oh, that was an entirely unrelated stupid thing that I haven't had the brain to deal with yet. I'm probably going to have to do a supplemental episode this week, quite frankly, which feels really annoying to say. Oh god, I'll Jesse Single's Blue Sky account briefly on video. Kill me. I'm doing this in the timeline order. Mostly this one, that one. This able to pronounce this one. Hey, I'm going to be referencing this article during this one, but it's also kind of a huge pain in the ass, so I'm just going to throw this into chat real quick. This is a really good article on why the whole Blue Sky decentralization as the AT protocol thing is basically bullshit. I'm going to be going over it in more detail through this, but essentially the simple version is, there is no simple version because the fucking flowchart that they made for this is ridiculous to explain why it was never going to be a properly decentralized system and is almost exclusively ever going to be controlled by tech gentry bullshit or, oh no, I need the post. Oh, thought I saved this one. Cool. Okay, now I can start doing the timeline of Crashout. Yay. When the fuck is that a thing that I need to have to do? I shouldn't have to do this, but it's the world we live in now, where I have to document the fucking public Crashout of CO fucking moon. This is my phone. Right, that's the exact issue, is that I took this one. So it's stuff like my phone battery percentage and shit. Oh, right. Forgot about that. Weird ones where I forgot that I took them are definitely the sillier things. The next 2 posts, waffle, hello stab. That one just starts going, thing we're trying to advert, though it's a product, self-distinct social networks. Like, the argument has always been that Blue Sky is supposed to be more of it's supposed to be a decentralized social media network, with the idea essentially being that they were trying to sell the protocol to make it such, and failing that, they started trying to push the idea of it as like the crown jewel of a slightly decentralized network, and the problem being the AT protocol is fucking shit at that. You cannot do it because each individual layer needs to be interacting with all these different other things because they're all just weirdly built on top of each other, and you run into the overwhelming issue with, say, the only currently operating PDS right now is Black Sky, which Black users set up specifically because they didn't feel safe or protected by primary Blue Sky or even using the moderation tools that were otherwise available. And they have done every step of rebuilding the AT protocol that Blue Sky is built on, except for literally one thing, which is an app view level system. They even have their own relay, which is one of the most expensive and huge pain in the ass things to set up. But it doesn't matter because they don't control the app view perspective, which means that one of their organizers still just got banned from the entire thing, which shoots the entire argument that, yeah, you can just take all of your data and shoot over to another PDS when you don't trust the Bluesky moderators or even just Bluesky's executive board in the fucking foot, because it was always bullshit. Because no, you can't. You actually can't. And it's not even as, like, arguably simple as, like, spinning up a Mastodon instance, which aren't necessarily simple, but are simpler than this. Because this is like thousands of dollars a month for running just the relay aspect with no potential for profitability or even like break-even points because there's no monetization built into Bluesky yet or any, therefore, of its PDSs. So, oh, right. It's just a dumb situation because every aspect is just asinine. Okay, hey, I have all my images done, so let me just get them set up in this thing real quick. Property, just this one has 26, I think. Yep, 26. Okay. Oh no, I think I'm as ready as I'm ever gonna be then. Cool. Okay, cool. Oh my goodness, we can actually get started. What the fuck? I don't know why I've started swapping to that a lot more lately, but I have. Ooh, that viewer count is slightly depressing me, but hey, that's what happens when I fuck up and this takes fucking ages to do. Hey, cool. This is easily my longest script ever, and I regret. Yeah, okay, according to this, my script is literally more than 5,000 words long. I said it shorter. What? Huh? My thing says my teleprompter is saying that this is longer than my other program did. What? Fuck? Also get pro 0. Cool. Okay, I'm gonna pause the recording. We're gonna start a new one, do all that jazz, and yeah, be with y'all in a second, I guess. You know what I also had to realize while writing this? That generals meeting was only on Wednesday. Yeah, back on Wednesday after the government shut down, Pete Hegseth held his special meeting with every admiral and governor in the entire US military. Okay. Now I just need to try and remember what the hell what stories did I forget about? There was one that I was just looking at that happened like while I was live. Oh, one thing I forgot was that AJ Link specifically was banned after pointing out that a thing Jay did was transphobic. Oh, I didn't even cover any of the Barry Weiss stuff. If you're not aware of this, okay, so one, Barry Weiss was just placed in charge as like an official censor of the CBS newsroom, and in the ongoing thing of everyone just openly bribing Trump officials now, this morning, the price point for Paramount buying her, God, what the hell was her stupid company? Buying her, like, journalistic org that was not a journalistic org in any possible way, came out, and it was something like $150 million to buy her company and then place her at the head of their newsroom. So literally directly censor shit. Oh, right. Sorry, she's expected to be named editor-in-chief today. The Free Press, right, that's what her org was called. Because this is also part of the whole Paramount is trying to buy WB after WB announced their plans to do their, like, weird split up into, like, 2 different orgs. Oh, my brains. So Paramount announced their intent to buy all of WB instead of letting them split into 2 separate orgs. And as part of that, suddenly Barry Weiss is being thrown onto censoring CBS. I'm so tired. And I don't even know what the hell to do with it anymore. I've also just scrolling through a thing and have already seen a thing of Sora making false information or like misinformation. Is there anything else? Oh! I was gonna include a stupid thing about, okay, this is a really fun, just asinine one because it's so stupid. Claire's is going out of business because their business model is shit and has always been kind of terrible. But in this case, they're actually going out of business because they got acquired by a private equity firm who stripped them for parts, loaded them with a shitload of debt, and look, that's all private equity does. I'm sorry. But since they own Claire's, they get to decide how the messaging around that works. So they've started putting these fucking posters on closing out Claire's stores that there is not any kind of boycott or any sort of organized anything happening for Claire's. If you're not in the US, this is a like small store that exists largely within like one-off in all malls where you get the shittiest, cheapest piercings done, and they sell sell the shittiest, easiest, like cheapest jewelry for such. They've been dying because malls are dying. Like, I'm sorry, it's really just that simple. But they also have the additional issue of venture capital loading them down with a shitload of debt. They're throwing up these just printout things that is a notice of store closure that specifically includes this ridiculous thing of the decision reflects both external pressures and internal restructuring. In recent months, repeated attacks of ridicule by radical left agitators have gone beyond mere criticism, escalating into a deliberate effort to destabilize our company. Conduct we recognize as domestic economic terrorism. There has literally been no organizational effort against Claire's. They've just been loaded with a shitload of debt that they were never, ever, ever going to be able to pay off. At the same time, our transition under a new private equity ownership, which they admit right there, but what the fuck, required a difficult financial choices. Protecting the stability of shareholders was prioritized, and this store, along with its local workforce, was deemed expendable in service of that obligation. Like, what? Hang on, you're just saying the evil part out loud. What? How does... Huh? Despite these challenges, Claire's remains committed to our identity as a traditional American company rooted in values of family and community. We will not be silenced by those who attempt to undermine that mission, and we continue to move forward with confidence in our future. I reiterate, this is the place that you go to when you want to get your ears pierced when you're 16 and don't have parental permission, and it costs like $10. Or you borrow the piercing gun without anyone noticing, but hey, whatever. Like, legitimately, this is the cheapest, shittiest, simplest, kitschiest jewelry that you can think of. Like, the kind of stuff that costs pennies to make and they sell for $15. Like, it's not a concerted effort. There's nothing here. This is all made up bullshit. Another one that I wanted to talk about because it's the most, what the fuck is wrong with you people? Trump declared an armed conflict, which is technically the legal term. That or military action is the legal term for everything that we've called a war that's happened since the Korean War, because technically the US has not actually gone to war since then, because going to war properly requires an act of Congress, which we haven't had since the Korean War. That's not a joke, by the way. That's just because American history is fucked up. But Trump declared U.S. is now engaged in a armed conflict with drug cartels, which is either the next logical step of somehow losing the war on drugs to drugs, or just a really long con joke at the CIA's expense. Because, look, it's an open secret that the CIA makes most of its money selling drugs. In many cases, selling drugs and weapons to the same people who in about 5 years they will claim have always been terrorists and we definitely did not arm in an attempt to get them to antagonize a different group that we don't like. Usually communists. Not always, but usually. Okay. What else? I feel like there's plenty of other stupid things. Like I said, I'm not talking about any of the flotilla stuff because reading about the little bits of the treatment that I was reading about was just like, I can't handle this shit right now, but they're literally torturing these people. And admitting so openly, which makes me very scared about what they're not admitting. And it's just an ongoing thing. Oh, goodness, what else? Oh, yeah, there was some stuff about, like, my state having actual amounts of plans for how to deal with the government shutdown. Oh, there's one really dumb one I wanted to work in, but I couldn't figure out how. On top of the whole... just objectively trying to blame the Democrats in so many different ways. The administration also got in so far as changing individual personal email auto responses that mentioned the government shutdown. Like, there are institutional level ones that they changed and tweaked, which is one of those, yeah, I saw that coming because it's stupid and that's the kind of petty that they are. But they went into individual, like, government employees who wrote their own specific ones addressing specific concerns to constituents or folks who would be contacting them and replaced them with anti-Democrat ones. Like, okay, look, just gonna keep saying it. If you hired a competent, like, quite frankly, if you hired a competent trans woman who somehow actually would work for them, and competent writer, but still, we could very easily show you exactly how to do this in a way that wouldn't make it as obvious that you're evil, but I'm so glad that they don't, because wow, are they bad at this. They're so bad at this. They just keep doing the evil part out loud and directly, openly. Oh, right. There was also an extra stupid thing about how, on top of the fact that Disney raised the price of Disney Plus and Hulu, how Disney is kind of trying to also get rid of Hulu. It's this really ridiculous thing too, because it's a multi-step process and they're weirdly open about it, about how I think as of this week, Starz doesn't exist as a streaming thing anymore and everything that's part of Starz is rolled into Hulu, with the intent of eventually moving most of their streaming branding that isn't on Disney Plus into Hulu before then rolling Hulu into Disney Plus. And it's just, what? Okay, one, why announce this? Two, what? Same thing, I also didn't get a chance to talk about, like, the Microsoft Game Pass price increase, because that's also a thing they're doing for some reason. I don't know why. Like, this is the third price increase since the Activision Blizzard Microsoft merger bullshittery, and it's so dumb. Oh, right, yeah, because it was Handbasket who covered this story. Now I'm remembering. Because, yeah, the White House Office of Management and Budget, OMB, instructed all federal agencies to send out the shutdown email with no modifications permitted. Federal source confirmed leadership received these orders via email at 1:30 East Coast, then reinforced at 3 p.m. via interagency call. And this was the thing about, like, employees at multiple government agencies have received an email from their leadership with text clearly dictated by the White House regarding potential government shutdown, and, like, a specific thing that they were supposed to do. I also wanted to cover a bunch of food stuff, but also covering food stuff as someone who knows about the U.S. food industry is terrifying, and I've been trying to maintain some amount of, like, sanity, but I also know that I'm uniquely in a position to report on food issues, and it's gonna keep getting bad. It's gonna keep getting worse, and I feel like maybe I should actually cover it. Because if you missed it, there was a listeria outbreak last week. Listeria is particularly scary because, one, it causes meningitis for just, like, it's awful. Two, unlike a lot of foodborne illnesses, it can not only grow in cold temperatures, it definitely isn't killed by them. Like, to the degree that freezing it is not safe either. It's very concerning. And it's one of the 6 foodborne illnesses that the CDC no longer tracks. Because quietly at the beginning of this administration, the CDC shut down tracking of 6 of the 8 major foodborne illnesses that they covered. I get that a lot of people want to think that, well, large corporations will provide at least some amount of cover for us because they have their own internal QA, they don't want to be sued, those sort of things. I need to make everyone I need to clarify for everyone that, one, U.S. food law, aside from some laws that very specifically affect individual restaurant line cooks, have not changed since they were instituted in the 1920s in response to the book The Jungle. The fairly minor updates that they've gone through are about things like food handlers cards and basically trying to put a lot more of the onus on the individual line cooks or on the individual restaurant managers to make sure that they always have someone who is certified on site to make sure that food temp danger zones are being maintained. That very wide variety of things. That the space within a restaurant is as safe as it can mostly be made by a singular person required to be on site. And even then, only in some states, because a lot of those laws are state, not federal. On the federal side, it's a shit show, y'all. Under Trump 1, he specifically removed the requirement that, I can never remember if it was USDA or FDA because there's a lot of overlap, but specifically, he removed the requirement that inspectors be on the line for pork slaughterhouses by allowing pork slaughterhouses to hire their own inspectors. There was a brief period of time where both the government inspectors and the, like, corporate ones were on the same lines at the same time, theoretically to make sure that nothing was getting through. In fact, what they actually found was that the corporate inspectors did not block any carcasses at all, including pigs who were quite literally coming into the slaughterhouse already dead and therefore decaying and potentially sick beforehand. Yeah, Trump went ahead with it, obviously. And then under Biden, it was extended to also cover the poultry industry, which itself has its own just nightmare space of issues. But yeah, this is why pork and chicken are both actively becoming significantly less safe, because when you're starting with potentially rotting carcasses being sent through a line, those blades are not necessarily being cleaned in between each carcass, because part of the whole point of doing a lot of this is that the end consumer is going to cook this product, or someone along the line is going to cook this product. So if the carcass going through is fine, or even the thing that started as a living animal is healthy when it goes in, all of the stuff inside it is supposed to be the same stuff that's in all of the other ones. But the second that there's one that has something else going on, and those blades aren't being washed in between each and every fucking run, congratulations, now every single cut of pork that touches that blade is potentially infected until it's properly cleaned. And having personally worked food QA, they're not cleaned as much as you think they are. I didn't deal with meat mercifully. I personally dealt with a lot of baked goods and a lot of sweet fillings, fondants, jams, jellies, and baked mixes. And there's a reason why I don't eat at any of the places that company sells food to, because I know what their standards are, and I know that their standards are not good. I also know that, at least in that particular location, they specifically put a person in charge of food QA who tried on multiple occasions to make me release cherry filling that we knew had 8 hours of repeated constant metal hits, because, well, sometimes cherry pits show up as having metal in them. Cool. Best case, that means there's a shitload of cherry pits in all of these, which are not supposed to be there. Worst case, there's 8 hours of metal pulls, you dumbass! So they put him in charge of QA. That's why I left, by the way. Food is going to start heading in a lot more dangerous directions for the US. One thing that I would recommend for folks is basically the real danger is specifically going to be anything that is considered ready to eat or pre-cooked. So if you are not being told somewhere on the packaging to raise it to some sort of specific temperature, if there's ground meat in it and you're not being told to get it to specifically 165 degrees, it is considered ready to eat, and you probably shouldn't trust it, because that was the issue with the listeria outbreak, where it was some sort of pasta with meatballs, where it was a pre-made pack that was frozen, but the meat was pre-cooked. So the goal was to have you heat it up, not necessarily cook it, because there's a difference there, because it's the assumption that we are creating a product for someone who is not going to be cooking it to the temperature that will kill off all of its bacteria. Yeah, unfortunately, pretty much, especially food regulations. But yeah, any attempt to remove regulations without a good explanation of why that specific regulation is causing an issue is going to be a problem. Okay, I need to go start working on this, plus I have therapy in 30 minutes, and I don't even know what the hell I'm gonna do with it. Oh, right, the reason I was thinking about this, because I had can't see this, I had the thing of US soybean shit up. This is my final bugbear on the food stuff. The US has been running this tax subsidy program for generations that encouraged anyone with significant land ownership to grow corn and eventually soybeans on that land, because the tax subsidies that they'd get back were, in many cases, worth more than the cost of merely owning the land. So, in theory, the corn or soybean would just be net profit. There shouldn't really be any kind of way to not turn a profit on it. That, however, falls apart a little bit when, soybeans require kind of a lot of water, and that's becoming a more expensive issue. And when your country decides to get into a trade war with the primary buyer of large swaths of that, because we already try and use a lot of the corn that we grow, it's kind of an issue because we don't really need that much corn, which is part of why we use it as animal feed, which it's distinctly terrible at. And there's a whole thing with American cows having significant dietary issues because they are also not set up great to consume and get nutrients out of corn. Fun thing, neither are humans. In fact, it has nothing to do with that physical outer bit around the kernel, but with the way that corn itself is actually structured chemically. We lack a specific enzyme, as do cows, to break down one of the bonds that keeps all of the useful nutrients within corn It's why it is a staple crop, but it's a staple crop for Native Americans who performed nixtamalization, which is the application of a basic ingredient to break down that protein that we lack an enzyme to otherwise break down, which then gives us access to the rest of its nutrients. Nixtamalization is the process by which Native Americans also treated their stuff with wood ash, because that was where they were treated their corn specifically with wood ash, because that was where they were getting the basic ingredient. Nowadays, it's mostly done with sheet lime, which is just a slightly less... I know it sounds worse because it's like a construction material sounding thing, and it kind of is, but it's just essentially mixed with water and then boiled to help break down those chemical barriers and make masa and get useful nutrients out of it. Arguably, the Native Americans more likely originally started essentially boiling it in wood ash water and then grinding it into a gruel, because, let's be honest here, a lot of early food kind of sucked, which is part of why everyone except for, well, I guess the British did this too, but they just went back to making everything ridiculously bland anyway. Why so much of human exploration and connection has been about making food suck less. But got into stupid trade war with China, so suddenly, despite the fact that historically US soybean sales to China have been amazing for our bottom line, because historically last year we sold $12.6 billion worth of soybeans to China, they bought none this year. And in fact, we did that stupid bailout for Argentina. They immediately about-faced to selling China their soybeans because they don't have idiot reciprocal attacking tariffs set up. Yeah, I'll see you all soon. I need a couple of days. I need everything to stop being constant and happening all the time, but I need a couple of days. I will get this up as quick as I can, and I will hopefully see you all soon. Yeah, I will be back, like I said, on, what is it? Oh no, Monday? No, today is Monday. I will be back on Thursday for Digimon, because I'm just playing a bunch of Digimon this week. Yeah, thank you all so very much for joining me. If I have anyone necessarily to throw y'all to, because it's early and there's only like 3 of you, so I think I'm just gonna call it. Thank you very much to April, Fragile Paper, Manfred, Pinball Witch, Pimento, and Yalk. I literally could not do this without all of y'all. Yeah, bye.